Okay, we're live, Bobby.
We are live, yes. Welcome everybody to week 45 of virtual tastings with Becker Vineyards. We're here together with a great group. We've got Dr. Richard Becker here. We've got Brett Pernew, our general manager. We have our winemaker, John Leahy, and we have Nicole Bendelay, our tasting room coordinator and PR. And then myself, Bobby Totten, assistant tasting coordinator. So we've got a great lineup of wines today. We've got some beautiful Provençal. We've got our Cheval Noir, and we've got our Autuno today. So it's going to be beautiful, getting ready for the big weekend of Valentine's, which it's going to be a little chilly, but hopefully this will kind of warm us up and get us ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and head it on over, and Dr. Becker, we have some beautiful words for today, sir.
The words are better. A little bit of progress with this pandemic that we've been sort of holding off with our weekly meetings and our attempt to kind of raise our spirits and everyone in the middle of this terrible catastrophe that's happening. But I think some real progress with the vaccine beginning to appear and its effects, and hospitalizations and deaths are diminishing. So anyway, I just it's been an honor for me to be part of this, and our whole crew, and our hearts go out to all the people fighting this battle. And maybe just a few minutes now to taste some of these wonderful wines we've kind of all made together.
Wonderful.
Thanks. Yeah.
Cheers.
I'll second that motion, especially the tasting part. So we're going to kick it off with the 2018 Provençal. If you all are joining us, please feel free to pour yourself a glass and kick your shoes off and rest and relax. A well-deserved break from the ordinary. So, and we're looking at, I'm seeing all of the regulars signing on to Facebook. So welcome back, everyone. So Brett, we talk about the Provençal, and I know we've done the Provençal once before, but would you like to go into the origins of the Provençal and our other rosé program?
Yeah, I think that we all have talked about how we Saunier a lot of these red blocks or the red lots as they're coming in, and I'm looking at the spreadsheet on this one, and it's a spreadsheet. It's not one blend component. It's about 15, I think. But you know, we talk about styles of wine, and the Beckers have always loved the Tavel style rosés, and that's what we kind of go for on a lot of these. And I'm looking at this, and it's even got a little bit of Viognier. It's got some Malbec, Mourvedre, Cinsault, Counois, Tempranillo, and so those varieties I just read off, I kind of feel like the Provençal has always kind of been the lighter side of the red Sauniers. And as John and Rachel pull those grapes in and they taste the different Sauniers, they're actually putting them in different tanks for a flavor component, and then we make the three that we make. And if you line all three of those rosés up, you'll definitely see a difference. They're not just three of the same thing wrapped in a different package, and that's definitely on purpose. But I think that this is the one that's maybe the lighter version of the three right now. And like I said, the blend comp is too long to read on this thing. So.
Yeah, I'm looking down here too. Just yeah, it truly is just a touch of almost every vineyard we deal with here. We've got. I want everybody to kind of just take a good sniff and taste on there, and then just for fun and grin and giggles, how's the balance to you? So Bobby, what will you start off with that?
Yes, sir. So beautiful nose, very floral. I mean, you get a nice floral notes on the nose, kind of some of that orange blossom notes and almost some honeysuckle. On the palate, I mean, it's got a nice bright acidity to it on the front of the palate, and then just kind of mellows out. I get a lot of melon notes, kind of some honeydew, a little bit of watermelon. It's just a gorgeous wine. Really, really enjoy the Provençal, which that was my introduction of the rosé here at Becker Vineyards. Was we only served Provençal in the tasting room at one time, and I think the last vintage was I think it was Talent's Mourvedre or Grenache. No, I think it was Talent's
Mourvedre.
Grenache.
Yeah.
Oh, Mourvedre. So, which is great, and to see how it's progressed over the years, and to be able to have this in distribution is just beautiful. So I really enjoyed this Provençal.
So Nicole, by the way, I'm sorry, I've did not call on Nicole Moore, so we need to give her a lot of help tonight. So. Nicole, what do you think? Now you've been around for every vintage of the rosé. So where are your thoughts on this one?
Let's see. I would say I pick up a lot of rose petals and strawberries, and then I think also on this vintage, also some pomegranates. And I know pomegranates might sound like kind of like an odd fruit, but they say actually the hill country is actually a great place to grow pomegranates if there would be a stronger market for it. But pomegranates seem to kind of jump out. There's also a little bit of cut grass to this.
So do you think we should change the name, since there's so much pomegranate? Maybe we should change the name to Persephone.
Oh, that's funny. But no, I think it's got a great balance of acidity. And it also reminds me of being back in Provence. I have some friends that live in the area, Cecile and her husband, and it kind of reminds me of how we'd sip on the Provence, a dry rosé in Provence, and then we would go and just kind of sit around, visit a little bit, and then later have dinner with something else.
It looks like you're somebody else's dinner.
I think she likes the Provençal too. This is Sadie, the English Mastiff,
Oh
my
my
four-legged
God.
furry friend.
Yeah.
I thought it was a cat. I couldn't tell that was Sadie.
Sadie's about the same size as my cat Lou.
That's
Hi.
Yeah, so for y'all that don't know, Nicole and Nicole's my sister-in-law. And I bought these two Mastiff puppies, and Sadie was the sister to the one that we had at the house, and they just got an awful fight. And so we shipped one to the Bindley compound over there in High Texas, and we kept one here so they quit fighting. And Nicole's got the bigger one of the two that we had. So she's awful big.
Yeah, you gotta love Mastiffs, though. I worked with a guy who had an English Mastiff, and he'd bring her to work, and he got a pallet with a piece of carpet on there, and he'd tell her to lay down, and she would. And she was an older dog, and so when she got in somebody's way, he'd just take the forklift, pick up the pallet, and move her.
Oh, wow.
So Doc, outside of the notes of English Mastiff, what do you think of the Provençal?
I think it's lovely. I guess one of the first wines I asked John to make was I wanted to see how we could do with the Bandol style rosés, which were Mourvèdre and Cinsault. Bandol is the southernmost grape growing region in the Rhone. Actually, is a port, has a beach, and we made a trip down there because we wanted to taste the Mourvèdre and Cinsault from that region. And see if Brett remembers, we had an opportunity to go swimming. So
You really want me to tell that story?
Yes.
And so we all went into the dressing areas, and Bunny got locked in. We finally got her out, and we all appeared in our Texas bathing costumes and began wading in. And would you like to take it from there, Brett?
Well, so I kind of had a cold, so I was not getting in the water. So I was sitting on a park bench, and everybody else went swimming. And the beaches in France, they don't wear their tops a lot of times, and
At all.
So anyway, as I'm sitting there kind of trying to get my head cold to go away, I see this lady coming down the beach or the boardwalk, and she's very attractive, and everybody kind of got out of the water. Doc was there showering off, and this lady parks right next to him and showers off. And I remember watching him, and he's kind of going over his shoulder, and he kind of went like that. And it just so happened that exactly the same moment, Bunny was locked in the changing room. But if I would have had my iPhone out, it would have been an awesome thing to have.
And
So-
John, that's balance we're talking
Yeah.
about.
Well,
So,
there's balance, and perhaps I might suggest Saint Tropez for the next.
Yeah.
oui.
Well, so what you're saying, Brad, it's not about the wine, it's about the experience.
Mhm.
That's right. It's the people you drank the wine with.
Right, right. Oh, well, we're getting a few comments, and they all seem to be revolving around the dog for some reason. Uh, oh.
I'm
Oh,
sorry about that. I guess she heard us talking and was wondering who I was talking to, since
Sure.
I'm the only one in the house right now.
Oh, no, she heard me. She loves me the most, Nicole. I promise you.
wow.
Hey, she's warmed up a lot more. Yeah, she'll go up and lick on Brett's leg.
Nice.
That's cool.
So, we are, I would be remiss if didn't mention the fact that, we normally do Merlot and chocolate around this time of the year. So, and we are going to move on to the Atuno here in a moment. But if you all have any chocolate available, I would suggest grabbing a little bit for the next couple of wines. Now,
That'd be good.
chocolate
Yeah.
does do well with rosé. I don't think there is anything that doesn't do well with rosé, so I could be misleading everyone.
And John, talk a little bit of the history of rosé. The Phoenicians, the Greeks, the Romans all had mixed field blends of red and white grapes, and they made a lighter colored wine forever. And then they began to experiment with separating the grapes, but and certainly the Romans did that very well. But
Well, do you
this is
think the Romans did it better than the Phoenicians, Doc?
I don't know if they did it better. I mean, I wasn't there, early
Whoa,
on,
wait a
but.
minute.
But this wine style is one of the ancient wine styles, and
Well, it is, and and for the longest time too, think back to Bordeaux. They did not skin contact the Bordeaux's until the late 50s, early 60s.
yeah,
Before they really started doing extensive skin contact. So the early century, 20th century Bordeaux's and prior were very, very light, fully phenolically developed, but very light. It wasn't until until the late 50s to early 60s that they started doing that as a commonality. Now, rosés, because they were quick turnaround, also we had preservation issues to deal with. Hence the amphora and the oil to keep the wines out of the oxygen. They recognized early on that air was an issue.
Right.
But as far as rosés go, I mean, they've been around as long as winemaking have been around, pretty much. So when somebody tells you that rosé cannot be sophisticated or it's a simple wine, that's just not true.
that's the point. I agree. Yeah.
So as far as my first exposure to rosés were, traditional press and go, press off the first 1/10 of a bar. That was considered the dirty wine from all the dust and everything from the grapes coming in from the vineyard. We would separate that cut, and then we would take the next 3/4 of a bar as the rosé, and then we would use the harder press. We would put full back into the red varietals that we were pressing as a normal red. And also take some of those skins and put them back in with the reds. I mean, there were multiple stages to this creature, and it's not, it does two things. One, it increases the skin to juice ratio for the red wine, but with the rosé, you're getting some of the highlights of the fruit of that particular varietal without the dark tannin extraction. So you get an early to market wine, certainly, but you get, and to me, rosé has always been fully dry. It's never been sweet. I've had sweet rosés, but to me, a rosé is a red wine drinker's wine for the summertime. You want that richness with that fruit. You want a lighter wine, of course. I mean, anybody can drink a cab at any temperature of the year. It's not a bad thing, but rosé certainly is a nice thing to have in a warmer weather.
What would you say? Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jill.
What would you say about alcohol? Like, I know that when I was in
It's the
France,
thing that makes the world go round. Lubricate. So the world is on the axis, and instead of grease, it uses alcohol to keep spinning. No?
sorry, I was meaning to like the evolution of like some of the ones I had were very delicious, very dry. I agree with dry,
Mhm.
and being a little bit lighter in alcohol.
Yes.
And then now I'm seeing some that are more, and I wasn't sure if it was really an evolution or just happened to be places I was at and a difference in that.
Well, there's a little bit of both. So nothing's ever a cut and dry issue to me. It's always, some people say it's this, some people say it's that. It's always a blend of the somewhere along the line. It's a blend of those issues. Yes, people do take some of those red varietals early in sugar development, so they're going to be naturally lighter in alcohol. I do not. I like to take the grapes right before we use them for still wine. I'll use them for the rosé. Now, by pressing early, you don't press as much sugar, but you can still get a higher alcohol. When you taste this wine, it's balanced. Nobody's going to guess that it's 14.7% alcohol unless they look at the label. And that is pretty high. I mean, I'm not saying it's not a higher alcohol wine, but alcohol, I think people have focused. Yes, you want to know what the alcohol is. Yes, you want to be able to make an informed decision before consuming. I'm not saying any of that's not important, but on the balance end of things, the alcohol should not dominate the flavor or the nose. The alcohol is there for preservative and to carry the nose. That's what alcohol does. It is a byproduct of what we are doing. It's not the focus of what we are
But
doing.
I think it's important that too that we don't really care what the alcohol is on this. Like
No.
we've never looked at it. The grapes come in, we take care of them, and we make the wine. And if the alcohol is 13.5 and it tastes like this, you'd be happy.
That's
And
true.
14.7,
Yeah.
and it's happy. And I think it's kind of to me, that balancing issue happens when we taste, and we're not going to make something that's an alcohol bomb or a fruit bomb,
Right.
or a fruit bomb.
Well, yeah, and you're absolutely right. We pay attention to alcohol for the legal label reason, and of course because we have to pay taxes on it. So there are agencies that we have to report those things to in order to monitor, because we are making a controlled substance at the end of the day. But to me, especially, the alcohol is not my dominant focus. My focus is flavor development, balance, fruit, and presentation of varietal. So I really think the wine should taste like the varietal that is on the label. Now, when it's a blend, like the Provençal or the Atuno that we're about to go to, then it's not going to taste like any particular varietal, but it is going to taste like a well-developed blend of that style of varietal.
Yeah.
So the alcohol, I think, Nicole, back to your question, I think it is a little bit of affectation. There are times where through our industry, where you see these waves going through that we're very concerned with alcohol. We want lighter. There are a lot of concerns on there. Somebody calls the winery and says, I'm looking for a lower alcohol wine, then we can direct them that way. Here are some of our wines that are 12 or 13%. But somebody comes in and says, hey, I want a wine that's this, or this, we would try to direct them in the right area. But alcohol is not my concern, as far as I don't believe if it's not out of balance, then alcohol just plays backdoor. It's not dominant.
Cool. So on the preservation side, as you were mentioning, this wine, what do you think on the aging, the longevity of our Provençal?
Well, that's a very good point, Bobby. We have some 2016 Provençal in the back that we tasted. What was it, Brett? About 6-8 weeks ago. I mean, we tasted maybe a few months ago. It was in the fall, last fall. And I think we were both very, very surprised. It was like, well, the fruit is still there. So I don't think, I think
But
traditionally.
don't you think too that's because of the varieties it's coming from? I mean,
Sure.
the fact it's your base blend is from the things that should age a little bit longer.
Yeah.
I think that has a lot to do with it, just personally. But when we tapped that 16 keg of Provençal, which by the way, we do have kegs at the winery, 20 liters. We kind of reserve those for the restaurant program. But those 2016 kegs that we got into I couldn't believe how good they were.
Oh, they're absolutely wonderful. So Bobby, to your question, there are varietals that have the longevity built into them. It's certainly how we treat the wine, how we treat the grape, what we do to the wine when we make it, how we age it. A big common mistake is aging a wine and bottling it with too high of a dissolved oxygen. And it really is important to look at that. And so scrubbing the oxygen out of there is very important. We age our wines initially in a very reductive environment, especially the rosés and the whites. So that automatically gives them a little bit of an edge right off the bat, because we're aging them in an oxygen-free environment. They don't taste great or smell great when they're in that environment. It's not until we introduce a little bit of O2 to open them up.
They taste and smell awful.
Yeah.
I did a library tour and went to one of those tanks of rosé the first year you were there, and I pulled that wine off that tank, and I was like, "Holy crap, he's gonna get fired."
Yeah, so I mean, it's a trick to keep the fruit in the preservation of the fruit to preserve it, and also it also adds to the ageability. Like this 2018 is still young. I mean, you've got to discount the first 6 months of any wine's life while it's at the winery. It may say 2018, but it takes a few months to ferment to come to its age. Then we blend and then we bottle. So on the rosé, you know,
I mean, we just bottled this in March of 2020.
Yeah.
I mean, this is fresh still for us, you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, you know, we're breaking all the rules with this rosé. We're not bottling it 6 months after we make it. We're not trying to sell it out in a year. You know, it's we make wine now. I don't want to come across as a complete ass, but we at Becker make wine. You know, we are not making a ego. We are not making, you know, we're not trying to come up with some bragging right. We make wine. We were tasked by our boss to make the best glass of wine we possibly can. And that is what we do. The byproduct of that is we're the most awarded winery in Texas. We make wines for the longevity. We treat the fruit from our growers with the respect that it deserves. We have great relationships. All of that comes into play. Every single person we deal with, 33 people to bring you this glass of wine, and all 33 people have a bit of a say in that. And it's very important. But, you know, at the end of the day, I'm happy to come home and say I made a great glass of wine. And trust me, I live with somebody who's happy that I make a great glass of wine.
So, before we leave the Provençal, Nicole, I want you to, so the first double gold medal that John won in San Francisco wine competition was rosé. And I think you came down and gave him the message, Nicole, and would you like to describe his reaction? And do you remember that, or am I?
Well, John had mentioned that, hey, by the way, because so to our audience, to our guests, so when I get the email, sometimes it comes in an email format, sometimes in a letter format, and so you know, I immediately contact Dr. Becker to let him know, and then our winemaker John was like, hey, I want you to let me know as soon as possible too. And so I got the notice on one and had went down and told him about it. And he just kind of looked up at me from his desk and he's like, oh, okay, thanks. And I was like, okay. So I'm walking away thinking that was really strange. And then it was a joke. And I think John even said Brett was looking across from him because their offices are kind of catty corner to one another, and was wondering what was going on. And then John chases me up the steps and goes, I want to call Dr. Becker. Let me call Dr. Becker. Yeah, baby, we won. I said, okay, call Dr. Becker.
It was funny because Brett didn't just lean across. He looks at me. He's like, did you hear what she said?
Also, I do want to say to our guests that it's always exciting to win these awards. That never gets old. I've had people ask me, well, how many awards do you have now? And it's probably not as important. And it is important. It's always important. So we're always excited to get these awards for our whole team that works together with us at Becker Vineyard. So it's always exciting. Always exciting.
Yeah, it is. And I just want to add that I hired a new chef at the house. Jim Chefs International. Jody, my wonderful wife, made crispy scallops to go along tonight with the Provençal because that's the wine we're having tonight with dinner. So,
hi, Jody.
She's off hiding, but and I'm going to eat all of that. I'm not sharing it. So any other questions? Susan Hanks says, keep breaking the rules. Well, Susan, we will. So, any other comments on the probe and solve before we move on? Panel? Okay. Latuno? Shall we do that next? So the 2016. And Brett, do you have the spreadsheet open for the Atuno?
Yeah, hold on. I got to change pages, but I got it.
Yeah, I have to. And I have to thank Rachel again and every week for keeping all of this information and sending it in a timely manner.
So this was what we were going to call the Becker Bordeaux, which we couldn't, right? and then I talk about this a lot, but we went through the tasting or the blending session. So it is 89% Becker Estate Vineyard and 11% Talent Vineyard.
Mm-hmm.
And we tried awful hard in our tastings to make this an estate wine. And every time we did it, it needed a little more of the Talent, Merlot and Petit Verdot in it, 6% and 5%. So I keep going back to this, and we were on a conference call today. I'm on the Texas Wine and Grape Growers Board about how we name wines and how we hit appellations and all this kind of fun stuff. This is 100% hill country. It's 100% Texas. You could go on and on about this stuff, but the bottom line is that we don't go after the label. We go after making the best wine that we can, and then when it presents itself in a blind tasting, then we name it and we appellate it, right? If it works. So we wanted this to be an estate wine, and we just needed more out of that Merlot and that Petit Verdot, and that's where the blend comes from. But I actually think, John, we tagged it on the tank, Becker Bordeaux.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're right. And you know, kudos out to Drew, because he produces some of the best Petit Verdot. There's something about those granitics up there in Mason County that just absolutely fantastic. But this Atuno is hill country. If you want a great example of a hill country Bordeaux, grab this bottle and pop it open. So Doc, what are your opinions on the Atuno?
Well, you know, the Merlot comes from the French word for blackbird, Merlot, and it's interesting that Merlot probably evolved on an island on the Garonne, which is where it continues to produce some of the greatest wines in the world, like Petrus and other of the Pomerol and Saint-Emilion. It's wonderful to see this expression in Texas fruit. And, you know, so we're always talking about the fruit notes, but Merlot is famous for its graphite backbone. It's a softer wine. It softens a palate, but it has this Merlot character when grown in Texas. It reminds me of what I think I'm tasting in those Pomerol and Saint-Emilion and wines.
This is 46% Merlot, 40% Cab, 9% Malbec, and 5% Petit Verdot.
Petit Verdot, yeah. So it's got a great blend of all of the above. But I love the Bordeaux quality. I think as Brett said, we're trying to make Bordeaux in Texas, Bordeaux in the hill country, and this is pretty close.
We're getting there. Nicole, opinion?
I would say when I first opened it and then poured a glass and then just kind of let it open up a little bit and then sipped on it, it felt a little bit astringent. But having some patience and giving it more time to open up, I pick up more depth and also a big jamminess to this wine. There's lots of ripe fruit notes, and I would say dark fruit notes like blackberry, black cherry, boysenberry, and it also has kind of a fruitcake characteristic to it, and I would say even some dark chocolate notes as well.
Does anybody get any meatiness off of this? So
Yes.
there's a comment.
Yeah.
There's a comment online about getting a little bit of bacon. Like, Brett, what do you think?
I get essences of bacon and tenderloin, and no, Steve.
It's getting close to dinner time at the Pernod household.
But I do want to mention too, because you guys were commenting on the alcohol, this is one that's only 13.3 and
Right. Yeah.
and again at 13.3 you would expect it to be even more green and John, I think that one of the things that we try to balance is it's not about what the sugar is when it's picked, it's about how it tastes on the vine.
Right.
And 90 or 89% of this comes from the estate vineyard. And that Merlot that's in the back that this is a part of is the one that we made a single vineyard Merlot out of in 2012.
Yeah.
And we're working on that vineyard. We're trying to do different things with it. The Malbec, I think, is the new blocks that we planted after we had such great success with the Malbecs from Drew Talent. I think the Malbec blocks that this came from are the prettiest blocks in the whole vineyard, with the exception of probably the Wine Club block. And it's close to the winery, so that that's probably why it looks so good. But I think that like trying to go through there and try to trying to analyze if you're looking at the blend comp, this wine it's a lighter bodied wine. It's not a big, bold, chewy, jammy anything, but it has a lot of balance and it has a lot of good points.
Mhm.
I was particularly enamored when I was blending with the quantity of the Petit Verdot from Drew's. Is that it? And one of the standing jokes for those of you out there who don't get to participate in our Saturday meetings is somebody always inevitably says, "What do you think about adding Petit Verdot?" And my point is not to Chardonnay. So, but yeah, that, as Doc, you alluded to earlier, that softness, that velvet that Merlot is, the Cab does offer some body. To me, Cab also has those. To me, Cabernet has to have a little bit of that pyrazine, that green bell pepper edge or grassy edge or jalapeno edge. I mean, it comes across as a lot of different things, even chocolate and coffee, all in the same category. Starting off with that Merlot and that Cabernet, then just that small amount of Petit Verdot and then the Malbec for absolute roundness in the mid palate. And it came together quite nicely. And Brett, you were right. We were trying to make an estate. And it's just like, man, we cannot without that bit of talent wine, but we made a hellaciously good Hill Country wine.
Well, and I do think that for the people that follow us, these Quattro Stagioni labels, we use them for a project like this. We got like 10 more that every time we find something, we're walking in the barrel room and we try something and we're like, oh, this could go in the Four Seasons wine, because we really have no rules that we're following. We find something that's kind of neat and kind of go with it. And if this would have made the cut, it would have been called the Becker something or Estate something. I don't think it would have hit in the Atuno or the season line.
Right.
But it just kind of is always funny as we're walking around and we find something that's cool. It's like that could be the next Primavera or that could be the next Atuno. And we're trying to stay within that. We even have works that we're talking about this week for a Primavera that's going to be a white wine. So we may have a red Primavera and a white Primavera, just because we found some neat stuff that we could put together and make 1,000 cases of that was really exceptional, and we just really liked it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and the fun part when we introduce that is the vintage age on that white wine. It's
Right.
It's been a fun thing to do. So Bobby, I understand that you have a plate of chocolate. Is that true?
Show us, Bobby.
I
Show
think
us.
Bobby, there was a lot more chocolate on there before we went live.
There was. I'm breaking my diet.
They gave us these little parts, these. I got
Yeah.
them backwards.
The little
Yeah.
heart. Yeah.
I had the little insert there. Brett showed this is the insert, which I already took down the what was it, the dark chocolate and coconut, because that's my favorite, and which went great with the Provençal. Other than that, kind of working on the vanilla cream and the caramel, but I don't know. I had
How did they go with the Atuno, Bobby?
just fabulous.
So I have a little Ghirardelli chocolate square to go with this.
Is it your last piece?
I'm
No.
sorry.
Is it your last piece?
It's this one. They were issued today at work as a mandatory reason to be there.
Exactly. We had an official chocolate issue, work sanction issued chocolate. I'm going to go with the fact that Ghirardelli goes well with the Atuno.
I have to agree on that one.
Doc?
We go back to the Petit Verdot for just a second,
Sure.
because it's such it's an interesting grape. Historically, the Romans recognized the value of grape growing and winemaking in Bordeaux 2,000 years ago. I think the Roman governor's mansion or estate was very near where in Pomerol, near Chateau Petrus. But Petit Verdot is thought to be maybe one of the first grapes that the Romans planted in Bordeaux, and so it's fun to taste a wine that has that lineage all the way from wherever the Romans brought it from to Bordeaux to Texas, and to find it expressed in this wine.
Are you telling me that the Romans brought Petit Verdot to Texas?
Yes, they did, John. And
What did they say when you told them they couldn't plant it on your property?
thanks. Anyway, but it's one of the great blending grapes, I think, and but between Cabernet Franc and Petit Verdot, we can put a lot of backbone in a lot of wine.
Oh, I agree. And
Without playing the bass drum, which is what Tannat is, right? I mean,
Right.
these are
Well,
real wine
not
grapes.
the bass drum, then would you say Petit Verdot is the cowbell?
I wouldn't say that, no.
So Petit Verdot, does that have a little bit more tannin structure to it? A little bit more darker notes?
Lots of
Yes.
herbal notes, lilac, violet, stuff like that.
Oh, it has a ton of violet. Yeah, wood violet in there. Absolutely. But yeah, Bobby, a good Petit Verdot does have a nice tannin structure. It's not in your face like a Tannat or a Touriga Nacional, but it's
Yeah.
there. And I think it resolves itself a little easier. It binds together, forms those longer chains, brings out that mouth really
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is this wine is an absolute fun thing to be able to present to people because it is hill country.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
let them know that, when I first started working here in 2012, I read an article lamenting the fact that people were wasting their time on growing Bordeaux varietals in Texas.
That's right.
And that coming from a predominantly Bordeaux house prior to this, I was like, well, that sounds like a challenge. So, and I don't know how many.
Filter.
Oh, filter. Thank you, Brett.
I can see it.
Filter.
Brett, I think the structure of this wine, or John, this wine is really set to evolve nicely over time.
Yes,
To taste in 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
absolutely.
It's got that makeup to my palate.
Well, and the other reason, if you look at his label, you see it's like a hill country scene that Tony Bill painted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably, as much as we act like we don't have a plan, sometimes this was definitely planned to have the hill country scene from the shores. I think it says of Lake Travis. Is that correct, Doc?
Yeah.
We didn't put, we had a definite path on that as soon as it was hill country to make sure that it stayed within its realm of what painting was on the label.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll tell you what. So I don't see any. People are enjoying it online. I don't see any. I don't see any other further questions. But so I did see. I got an interesting question about the scallops. But so just this is not planned. But I've got to tell people if you haven't seen these people, No Seafood, KNOW. You can order it online. That's where we got them, and then Jody and I have enjoyed that a lot. So,
Wow.
but yeah, we've been going through a heritage of different cookbooks there because apparently I have a cookbook problem. Over the last 25, 30 years, I've been buying cookbooks. Some people do drugs. I do cookbooks. So, good, having fun playing with the recipes. Okay, so on to the third wine, the 16 Chivot Noir. And Doc, would you like to kick this one off?
Well, this was our idea about trying to make a Pomerol, trying to make our blend of Merlot and Cabernet Franc. And I've always loved this wine. So it has just has a wonderful, rich nose of dark fruit and, gosh, maybe some herbal notes, spicy notes, pepper, tobacco.
Yeah.
This is really a beautiful wine, in my opinion.
And pepper, like black pepper, like Telecherry or,
Yeah, yeah. And the Cabernet Franc is just wonderfully present in this.
so this kind of like the Texas version of a Cheval Blanc.
That was the idea, yeah. 30%. Thank you.
So what is it that you like about Merlot, Doc?
Well, it depends on there's Merlot and there's Merlot. And I really think that you have found Merlot in Texas like no one ever else had. And the idea was that, so the Four Seasons would be 4 different expressions of Merlot blended with other wines, other grapes. And, Merlot's the most planted red grape in France. It's generally kind of softer and fleshier, and it plays off against Cabernet Sauvignon or Cabernet Franc or Petit Verdot or Malbec, all blended with Merlots. But I guess I like. I don't know what I like about it as much as the expression that we found that you found in Texas, which is more pepper, more kind of more strength in the grape. I'm not being very clear about this because I can't, but. I think it's unexpectedly dark and rich in my experience, and certainly that's the experience on the right bank of the Gironde. And you think, can that really be Merlot? But somehow it's emerging in Texas. Maybe there's something between Pomerol and Tokyo, Texas.
Right. Oh, yeah. I can't say enough about the High Plains Merlot. We've got several growers up there, and every one of them produces fruit that's wonderful. And we've got certainly Jet, Wilmeth, and we've got BJ. We've got Steve Newsom up there, who does a great job. And Farmhouse Vineyards is another wonderful partner. I mean, we've got quite a few people that we love dealing with, but Merlot growing up in the High Plains, I mean, I love the Hill Country Merlot. Drew Talent and ourselves, the Merlots that we produce, I've always liked. But there is a whole different world between the Hill Country and the High Plains when it comes to Merlot. And I quite enjoy the expression. And there are 2 different regions basically in the High Plains that I've been dealing with the Merlots, over near Tokyo and Brownfield, and then up over near Sundown, and they are different.
Well, this is mainly Steve Newsom's Merlot.
Yeah, right. I saw that
from Sundown, and again, you want to talk about Merlot. I love going to Napa or wherever we're traveling, and they're like, "Well, here's our Cabernet. It's awesome, and it's it's got all these great things." And they're like, "Well, this is Merlot," and you can find Merlots that are so incredible, and they just discount them because they're Merlot and not Cab.
Right.
And big. You'll find some really big. Like I always thought of Merlot as like medium bodied, but I've run across many that were actually almost as full as like Cabernet Sauvignon. Lots of depth of character.
Yeah, we love a lot of Merlots, and if you go in the wine room back here at my house, there's a high percentage of Merlots that are prevalent, and I love finding like that. When Dr. Becker, when he sent us to Unified last year, Joe Becker was with John and I in a winery in Napa, and I told Joe, I was like, "Do you remember that Whitehall Lane that we bought?" And Doc said, "Where's mine?" I said, "Well, that's my case. We'll bring you a little bit, but gosh, that wine was so good, and it was like $25. It was $25, and I think their cab was probably $60, and it just." I always love finding those that they're kind of discounting because of the name on it or the variety, and the Merlots are great in a lot of different spots. So
stand out.
And Doc, this one won. It was a double gold in the 2019 Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, and it was a Texas class champion, so we got a buckle for that one. And then in 2019, the Chronicle got a bronze medal at San Francisco. And it was also a silver at the 18 San Francisco International. So, I mean, that's pretty good company. And again, when Nicole comes down and tells John what the awards were, we immediately log in and then we see what beat us.
Right.
So we don't really care what the award was, but if it's something that beats you and you're okay with it, then everything is fine. You know?
That's right.
Yeah, isn't that horrible? But that's exactly it, right? I think we all have a little bit of competitive edge in our souls. So I want there. You talk about Merlot, so and Brett, you bring up in that Whitehall Lane, they do a really good job. But there was a vineyard. It's since been ripped out and replanted and stuff. But there's an old vineyard called Cork Tree. And that was one of the first Merlots I got to make on my own years and years ago, when Moses was still in short pants. And I just really absolutely.
John, yeah, I remember. Yeah.
You remember that, Doc? So, I just have one question for you. Was there really a little drummer boy there?
It was me.
Yeah,
I was short then, John. I was shorter. Yeah.
But they're just enamored with Merlot. And when I went to see the movie Sideways, and I love that movie, and the fact that he's bagging on Merlot, and it really did damage the Merlot industry for a little bit. The irony of the joke was that his favorite bottle, the Chivot Noir, was predominantly Merlot, and I thought everybody got that at the time, and apparently I was wrong. So,
And then even when that came out and at the winery, we would have guests that would go, "Oh, do you have any Pinot Noir?" And we would say, "Oh, I'm sorry, no, we're a hotter climate." And so we really expected them to turn around and walk back out. And they go, "Well, do you have any Merlot?" And we said, "Well, actually we do." And they go, "Show us your Merlot." And then so we're Becker Vineyards in Texas, our Merlot sales actually went up because of that movie. But you're right. On the West Coast, it really hurt them bad.
Yeah, and since then, I would always say, when people ask, do you do Pinot Noir? And I'm like, no, we make wine here.
He says that about every varietal he doesn't like. I mean, that's like,
and I actually love
there's
Pinot.
like 5 of them.
No, I actually like Pinot.
How about Sangiovese?
Yeah.
And then
I
also
just like
to our guests, we actually also added a reserve Merlot. We have a healthy number of people that really enjoy our Becker Vineyards Merlots, and the Beckers came out with several years back a reserve Merlot, and it's done really well.
Mhm. Yeah, and that is a fun wine. And
And after that movie, we had to change the package.
Yeah.
We had to make it engraved and look all sexy, and and you can put a paper label on it because you couldn't sell Merlot in the United States after that label. So that what you see in the grocery stores is kind of a direct, we spend a lot of time and effort to make the wine good, but yet we have to put the Merlot in the grocery stores in an engraved bottle.
And it's gorgeous. It is a gorgeous bottle.
And it breaks my heart that it's not $120 a bottle, but
Patience, John, patience.
Working on it.
We're getting there. Slow and steady wins the race.
right. Bobby, what do you think of the Chivot?
I think it's amazing. As we were mentioning beforehand, those pyrazine notes, those green pepper notes just kind of hopped out in my face. And I'm a sucker for jalapeno and bell pepper and those green pepper notes. So it just so beautiful. Also the notes from the barrel just jump out as well. Just kind of, this tannin structure just kind of sits nicely there. It doesn't really kind of like punch in the face or anything, but it does have some great depth to it.
Perfect. So somebody's just admonishing me about Pinot. I do like Pinot, but it has to be.
So on this Chivot Noir, is this our third vintage? So we've done 14, 15, and 16 now?
Yeah.
So John, I want to try to answer your question. You asked me what I like about Pinot. And what I like about it is what's here. And it's interesting that the 70-30% Pinot Cabernet Franc that you made that's pretty much the way Petrus runs, 70-30 roughly. And I've only tasted Petrus one time. My friend Harold Wood brought a bottle of 82 Petrus to dinner.
Oh,
Nice.
And when you tasted it, you didn't taste Merlot, although it was 70 or 80% Merlot. The Merlot in that wine, like the Merlot in this, was kind of an expression of a delicate fruit and spice. That it was not like, when you think of if you buy a bottle of Merlot, most places you get a very different profile. You don't get, this is a very rarefied profile to my palate.
Mhm.
And I think it's there, and that's why I'm so proud of it. But and I'm not expressing this well, but they're great Merlots are very complex flavor, and that's what I think we're in that direction here.
I, tasting that, I'm sorry, I kind of looked away. Just thinking about this. The expression there, it's got all of the cellar qualities of a that I really enjoy. Any wine that I look at, regardless of the region, that age, that mellowness, the tannin structure. Something that I can say that I'm very, very proud of is to be able to be part of the team that puts this together. And the fact that it really is fun when people discover Texas wines, that they're not familiar with it. And then they discover the fact that we're doing vinifera. We're making these wonderful wines here. I mean, we're certainly not the only game in town. We're just the best. No.
It's a small town. It's a
Yeah,
small town.
right.
Hey, we don't get up to be second. I say that every day.
Yeah, right. Exactly. We have great neighbors and we have wonderful folks all around us that are doing good things. But the fact that we get to be part of such a wonderful thing is absolutely fantastic. And if you know anyone that has not had a Texas wine, best thing you could do is buy a bottle for them and give it to them as a out of the ordinary gift. Just say, here, try this. We grow great grapes here. There's no doubt about it.
And even if they want to be pretentious about it, you can still do the brown bag where you just go, try this wine, taste it, and then, okay, let's unveil what the wine is. And there's a lot of people that are pleasantly shocked by that.
Yeah, the other thing we could do if they really want to be pretentious is just double the price. So
true.
okay. Yeah, there are people saying here, I brag on Texas wine all the time. So it's that
Thank
time, guys. So I want to know what your food pairing is. So Bobby, obviously chocolate is good for you. Just don't let Angela know. So what would you pair with these wines? Do you have one choice or all three? It's up to you.
Oh, I think barbecue could go great with all three of them. I mean,
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
just across the board. And I'm just thinking of Rudy's barbecue right now. Myself. So yeah, that's my choice. Nice brisket,
Okay.
some grilled corn, some grilled vegetables. Got to have the grilled jalapenos and bell peppers and all that stuff. So I think it all goes together well.
All right. Nicole?
I think with Provençal, I'm thinking like picnic sandwiches or even like a spinach quiche with the autuno. Being that we're starting to hit some colder temperatures today, and then the rest of the week, I was thinking of the Southwestern pumpkin potato soup. It's a recipe I borrowed from Brett. That's awesome. Has just a little hint of jalapeno. And then for Chevaux Noir, tonight I'm going over to our mom's and we're going to do a sheet pan pork with different vegetables like Brussels sprouts and
Wow.
or potatoes and stuff. But those are some ideas I'm thinking about.
You could bring leftovers to work tomorrow, Nicole. I'm just saying.
I'm gonna say I'm on my way.
Brett?
roasted vegetables with the pork.
Right.
Right.
I totally stole the pumpkin soup recipe from the Southern Living Cookbook.
Nice.
It's pretty good. I think the Provençal It has to have a fish, like a fish soup, like we had on the day the doc was talking about when we're on the edge of the Mediterranean, and they bring out this bowl of fish soup, and that's perfect with the Provençal.
Oh, like
The other
bouillabaisse.
two, bouillabaisse, yeah.
Now, I love bouillabaisse.
The other two go good with these.
Girl Scout cookies. That supports a very worthy cause.
Sure.
And if
It
you
does.
aren't buying at least 10 boxes a year, then you don't really truly believe in that cause.
We killed our 2 boxes already.
Yeah.
All right, Doc, what do you think, sir?
Last night we had dinner at the grill, and we had a bowl of Terry's French onion soup. That's
Oh.
wonderful
Lots of
with
cheese.
the Provençal,
Mm.
and it was just killer. I mean, just
Okay, but did it have brie on the top? Was it nice?
Yes.
yes. Oh God,
Oh.
yes.
Yeah.
Yum.
Now you're talking.
Just absolutely wonderful. With the two Bordeaux blends, black eyed peas and cornbread. You know, that's it. Brett loves steak.
Tenderloin.
I love black eyed peas.
Week 45, same food, kid.
Same food. Hey, I just say, I have a simple mind, feed me, same thing, you know.
Okay, well, I'm going to go in because Jody did an absolutely fantastic job with these
Whoa.
ginger scallops. And so one of the cookbooks I got years and years ago, I want to show this to people, the Open Hand Celebration Cookbook. So this is a cookbook done by multiple chefs. Each chapter is a full meal, several courses. It's not divided by entree, dessert, it's by celebration meal. And the recipe that she chose from was for the New Year's Day dinner, was the crispy sauteed scallops with soy ginger vinaigrette on there.
Oh.
So
That'd be good.
yeah, and it does great with the Provençal. We literally did it for the Provençal, but I just tried one while you all were talking with the Chivot Noir, and let me tell you, scallops and Chivot Noir go well together. So
Wow.
the grilled salmon, somebody just said grilled salmon would absolutely do well with the Provençal, I think.
Yeah.
So Bobby, what do we have up next week, sir, for our wine lineup?
Week 46, we have another beautiful rosé, our Jolie, which is really cool that we could, kind of go back to back with the rosé. So 17 Jolie, we have our 17 Canada Family Cab, and then our 18 Reserve Merlot. So we talked about our Merlots earlier. I think that'll be great on the heels of this week. We can see what our 18 Reserve Merlot tastes like next week.
Right on. That'll be fantastic. Well, everyone,
Cheers, guys.
another great week.
Cheers.
Thank you.
May everybody be
Thanks,
safe
everybody.
this week. Enjoy a good glass of wine and a great day.
Yes.
Okay. You too.
Cheers.
Bye.